And welcome back to Mountaintop Repair Shop. Today we're going to work on the Roland TR-707. This I got back in '98 from a music shop for about 150 bucks. But it's been in storage for quite a long time now, so it needs to be completely cleaned out. A lot of the buttons aren't even moving because there's dirt just around the edge that got stuck. It was stored in a box that, like, the top was open, and so dust just kind of fell in there, so it needs to be completely cleaned out. But we're going to fix it up and put it back to work, because this thing's a classic. I mean, it opened up the Thriller album with You Want to Be Starting Something. So, you know, and also one of my very favorite bands, They Might Be Giants, did their whole entire first album with this thing as their drum machine. So, it's got a special place in my heart, and it's also a piece of vintage Roland equipment, which all Roland equipment has a special place in my heart. So, anyways, let's head over to the workbench and start taking things apart, cleaning things up. First up, we can clean the outer case. It's very dirty, as you can see a clean spot that I made earlier right by that 707 logo. Some alcohol should loosen up this age-old grime. The faders feel pretty rough though, as they are full of dirt. This was stored in a box that wasn't closed, so the dirt and dust fell right in. Some of these buttons are stuck down, and I suspect that it's because of dirt that's in between the plastic button and the bezel. Now with that complete, we can open things up. We'll need to get under those buttons to give this a proper cleaning. I hope those buttons aren't damaged or stuck down. There is a little corrosion in the battery compartment that will need some cleaning. But the board looks good, at least from the bottom. We also need to disconnect the memory cartridge ribbon cable from the main board. These two machine screws will have to go back in. They just hold the secondary board containing all of the faders, which we want to remove as well. Looks like I'll have to push the power button in to get this board free. A couple more ribbon cables to remove underneath, and the main board is finally disconnected. The potentiometers are now nice and exposed. The bottom of the case seems to have a bit of dust in it. We'll get back to that in a moment. For now, it's time to remove the control board. I want to see just how these buttons function. Well, it turns out it's a rubber membrane with carbon contacts. Just like synthesizer keys of the time or any typical game controller. We'll pull these contact strips up and take a look at the other side. Quite dirty on here, but there's no damage to the strips. Alright, well this is what the big thing I was worried about was that something mechanically had gone awry because these buttons were stuck, not moving that well at all, and there's nothing wrong functionally with this, and this is the most mechanical as it gets. Everything else is just a block, so if there's some junk in here, we're going to clean it out. Yeah, look at the dirt that's in there. But nothing wrong with these buttons. There's just stuff in here. The buttons come right out. Cool. And they indeed need to be individually cleaned, so I removed all of the buttons. There's a ground strap that needs to be desoldered so we can completely remove this board. I want to get everything off the top of this case so I can clean every square inch. So if my keys were stuck, that means whatever dust or dirt fell in there is what screwed things up. Now I'll desolder the ground strap and get this board out of the way. The board lifts right off with the display, which is attached via ribbon cable. There isn't much dirt on this board. It should clean up quickly. Now, with all of the extraneous components removed, we can do the deep and fine cleaning to the top piece. After all of that case cleaning, it's time to turn on to the circuit board. I'm going to wipe off the crystal with a little isopropyl alcohol on a rag. And then a little bit more isopropyl alcohol, this time on a brush for the circuit board in a couple of spots. Now onto the contact strips with some alcohol. The top of them were the worst. It was really nice to see it all cleaned up and looking fresh. Now comes the part where we clean the keys for a while. I really wish it was this quick in real life. Thank goodness for video splicing. Reassembly time is one of my favorites. Time to get this thing all together and see the results. We'll start with the buttons. Then the contact strips. Then a control board with the display. Now to check the first thing that we were worried about. Well, they do look a lot better. The true test. Oh yeah. They're all back to normal. Excellent. We can now turn our attention to the main board. We have all those potentiometers to clean. Now some electronics cleaner, and some exercise. We can clean up that battery terminal with some alcohol, and I'll give it a little heat treatment from the soldering iron. I'll reattach that ground wire and then put the main board back in place. A few screws on the inside and a few screws on the outside, and we are ready for the last few trim pieces. Every button feels wonderful. And that would be the caps for all the potentiometers. They still need a cleaning, so we'll do that first. Ah, now the sliders feel nice and smooth. We'll have to do an audio test to make sure they all work properly. Well, here she is, back to her original glory. Let's see how it sounds and see if the buttons are all in working order. They feel great, and I think they work pretty damn well, too. The original demo. You can always clear these things and make them play that from memory. You can also program this thing to play a song, by using the different patterns in any order that you want. So the song keeps on going, the changes are right where you need them to be, but it doesn't, you don't have to program every single note. You can use the same repeating patterns over and over again where you need them, and throw in that crash cymbal or that bridge, and then go back to your regular pattern again. Pretty much anything you can think of. Alright, on this pattern, there's a blank space before the very beginning of this song, but I haven't actually put together in song mode, so I have to manually play it. So, we hit start. Alright, that's enough for this episode. We'll probably see this guy again on the Juno 60 Part 2 video, because the Juno 60 and this guy can be teamed up and they can do some pretty damn cool stuff. So we'll have to give you a demonstration of that when that time comes. But for now, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time in the next video.